Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Motivational Intelligence Podcast. I'm Sean Johnson, and on this podcast, it's our job to deconstruct for you what makes people and organizations successful. And we got a really cool interview for you today. Keith Heiden was diagnosed with a degenerative eye disease after he had some complications with strep throat when he was really young, about 10 or 12 years old. That resulted in him becoming legally blind. And despite that, he's overcome that condition to bowl, I think it's 4 or 5 perfect games. He plays golf regularly. He manages a heat treating plant, drives boats, and he's been a phenomenal father to 4 children. And so his work with the heat treating plant, the success of it was actually a family business. It was built on heat treating bullet casings for World War II, during World War II. And now they heat treat satellite parts, military equipment, boat propellers, and much, much more. So this story and this interview is about how, despite his apparent limitations, Keith has been able to defy expectations time and time again over the course of his remarkable life. And this interview is about the lessons that he's learned along the way. So I think it's something that you'll really enjoy. Please reach out to us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook and let us know what you think. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this. And send this to somebody that you think might find it valuable. Until next time, enjoy this episode with Keith Heiden.
The Motivational Intelligence Podcast is produced by the team at 2Logical. 2Logical is an international corporate training firm and the world's leading expert in motivational intelligence, which is the ability to understand, manage, and change the motives people have. 2Logical offers over 30 different keynotes, workshops, and full training courses to small, medium, and large Fortune 500 companies in 53 countries, a lot of which you're probably familiar with. Pfizer, Bank of America, GE, Constellation Brands, P&G, and more. All solutions are completely customized, and the feedback from these sessions will blow your mind. If you have any training or speaking needs or just want to say hey, head over to 2logical.com.
Well, hello, everybody. We have a very, very cool individual with us today. A bit of a renaissance man in terms of everything that he's done and accomplished in the course of his life, and a pretty inspiring story, all in all. You know, I met my wife back when we were in high school, and we dated for a long time. And I remember when she was in 10th grade, her 10th grade math teacher, Mr. Powell, told her that she was no good at math, that girls just couldn't do math for whatever reason. And my wife, she bought into that label. And what's interesting is, here we are, 30-odd years later, and to this day, she still, owns that label that she's no good at math. And I think so many individuals, as they journey through life, they label themselves in different ways. They label themselves and say, well, I'm not a morning person, or, I'm no good at remembering people's names, or, whatever else it may be. And the gentleman that we have with us today is one of those individuals who has managed to avoid those labels in a pretty spectacular way. His name is Keith Heiden, and Keith is a gentleman. He runs a steel hardening facility. He's a gentleman who he's an avid bowler, a golfer, has raced sailboats, has captained a boat, which is a pretty impressive boat. I've seen it. He is an individual who has accomplished some pretty incredible things in the course of his lifetime. And by the way, I should also mention that he's a gentleman who is also legally blind. So an individual who has done a miraculous job avoiding the labels. And so, Keith, welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
So, Keith, tell us a little bit. Now, initially, your eyesight it started to become an issue when you were pretty young, right?
10 or 11.
Okay.
I have what's called uveitis.
Okay.
It's a disease that attacks the uveal tract by the retina.
Okay.
And it's when it lays dormant, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that things flare it up.
Okay.
And I had a disease when I was younger, a strep infection when I was younger, which flared it.
Okay.
To the point that I was almost blind when I was 12.
Wow.
The eyesight came back when they cured the strep infection.
Okay.
But then to keep the disease dormant
Mm-hmm.
over the years, you're taking medications that attacks the rest of the eye.
Okay.
So in the 60 years I've been doing this
Mm-hmm.
with my eyesight, you start losing, cataracts go bad because the medicine attacks them. My cornea has been transplanted twice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cataracts been a thing, and the retina is always deteriorating.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just slowing it down. As I said before, I told you before, the right eye totally gone,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 25, 30 years ago.
Okay.
The left eye is 300, 350,
Okay.
depending on what day it is, just how clear it is, because the disease lets cells flow into the uveal tract, which block the eye, make
Okay.
it blurry. So, and some days it's better than others, and depending on clarity and stuff like that. And I've stayed just one step ahead of technology.
Yeah.
They couldn't actually, when I first had my cataract done, they couldn't even take it out. It just had to get bad, and then finally somebody discovered a way of doing it. I actually had a kid's operation at, I was 29 when I had it removed.
Okay.
And they actually did an operation they normally do on 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds.
Huh.
They emulsified it and took it out, but they couldn't replace it. So I had the thick glasses for a while, and then when they did my first cornea transplant, they also replaced the cataract.
Okay.
So, but it deteriorates over years, and the cornea transplant only lasts a few years. My first one lasted 10, and this one's been in 3, and it's started to deteriorate already. So that'll have to be replaced again. But it's just, it's you go along with it. It's just part of, I've stayed ahead of technology. I feel blessed that I've still got my eyesight.
Yeah.
Enough of it to at least get around.
Right.
As I said, 2350 is not near as bad as a lot of other people are out there in 2200. I have full circumference of my vision, which a lot of people have narrow vision and stuff like that. They're a lot worse off than I am.
Okay.
So it just depends on the level and how you do it and how you manage it.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot I can't do. With limitations. The nice thing about a bowling ball, it comes back to you. Golf balls don't come back to you; they get lost.
Yeah.
And I'm no better than my supporting staff. My kids have been fantastic about it. They've always been great to me. I play golf with my son all the time. I bowl with my daughter and my son. My wife's a great support in the fact that she has to take me to work every day and pick me up.
Yeah.
You don't get that too often, and somebody that's willing to get up when she's retired as she is, still take me to work every day and come and get me and, put up with it. But so you really know better than what your supporting staff is, and I've had a great supporting staff.
Yeah. So tell us, Keith. You were pretty young when this initially came on. So how did it kind of first present itself?
Well, as I said, the first time I ever did it, I was only 11 or 12, and I almost went blind.
Yeah.
But then the eyesight came back to the point that at that point you really didn't have a problem. I was back to 20/30, 20/40 with glasses and stuff like that. So at first it wasn't, but we knew it was going to be a slow deterioration.
Okay.
I've had great doctors.
Yeah.
I mean, when I went and first saw Dr. Pearson, which was when I was 11,
Okay.
I went in there because they thought I had pink eye.
Okay.
And he looked at me and he says, I can't handle this. And he sent me down to Johns Hopkins Hospital down in Baltimore. They were the ones that figured out what was going on. He sent me to a doctor called Dr. Wood. He's one of the best he knows uveitis better than anybody else around. That was his specialty was. And at that time, he was like 85, and this was 61.
Yeah.
So it was incredible that they were able to save my vision back then. So as I said, I just stayed ahead of it. And I've had great doctors. Dr. Pearson, Dr. Kennedy, Dr. Metz out of Strong did my first cataract. He did my cataract surgery. I had Dr. Ching did my first cornea transplant. Holly did my second cornea transplant. So it's been, really good doctors.
Yeah.
Good city to have doctors in.
Yep.
Rochester's a great, outside of Johns Hopkins being probably one of the best.
Yeah.
Going out to California maybe, but in Rochester, they got a great medical staff when it comes to eyesight.
Yeah. So I mean, what if you can remember? I mean, I mean, I'm just thinking about being an 11, 12-year-old kid and having your vision starting to go away, and I mean, it had to be scary, overwhelming.
I don't remember that much of it. It happened so fast.
Okay.
Because I was at summer camp, came out of camp, I went to school. My teachers were great. I never lost a year in school. I lost 6 weeks of school and never lost the year because my teachers were so great.
Yeah.
I did go to Allendale, Columbia, or Allendale at the time, and that's the reason.
Yeah.
They were able. They worked with me nights and stuff like that and got me through that whole mess. But I just don't remember it being scary outside of the fact that, and it happened so fast. It was, 3 months deterioration, and 3 months later I was back to normal.
Okay.
What I considered normal at the time, because the eyesight came back, and then it started to deteriorate over the next 50 years.
Okay.
As they say. And I drove till 82.
Okay.
That's when I finally got to the point that I couldn't drive anymore.
Right.
My eyesight had deteriorated to the point in 82 that it was down to like 2100, so you couldn't drive anymore.
Right.
And then the right eye was gone at the same time, and then from then on, it's just been a deterioration to the point it's at right now.
So you mentioned that once they cured the strep infection, was that something that was it relatively easy to? It sounded like you went to Johns Hopkins to get it diagnosed, but was it relatively easy to cure the strep infection?
Well, back then they didn't have antibiotics.
Okay.
So literally, no, it wasn't. It was like there's like 102 different types of strep.
Really?
And they give you a skin shot for each one of them to see which one you've got. And then they narrow it down. It's more like allergy.
Okay.
When you're going to get allergy tests, same thing. Then they deteriorate. Finally, they get it down to one, and then they go out and, they kill some animal to get the serum.
Right.
And then you go through a year of desensitization of strep infection. So it's a shot every week, up and down. I hate needles.
Yeah, understandably so.
As I said, the 102 strep tests were one thing, because they did that all in one night.
Wow. Really?
On your back. They did all 102 of them on the back.
Oh, my goodness.
So, and those are things I remember, but I don't remember whether I was scared or not like that, because it was just my mother and I down there.
Yeah.
And there again, I had great support.
So how were your parents? I mean, obviously, as a parent, that had to be tremendously scary. And
they never showed it. Although I think I saw more in my mother than I did my father.
Yeah.
My father was an incredible, just do your thing, go to work every day, and do your thing. And he ran the shop that I have been running up till the last 4 or 5 years when I was trying to retire out now. But he ran that for years, but you never noticed it. It was just part of every day we do this.
Right.
You do what you got to do. And he was a boater and a fisherman, and a hard worker. I mean, if he wasn't working at work, he was working on the house or working on the cottage or working on something else. He was always working.
Yep.
So, I don't ever remember the fear in them. They just, but they've been incredibly supportive of me.
Yeah.
They watched out for me, just didn't let me know they were watching out for me. They kind of kept it quiet in the background, but they've always watched out for me. So.
So kind of the fact that they didn't transmit the fear to you, so you didn't think to be afraid. It was like, this is just
they never stopped me from doing anything. When I wanted my license when I was 16, I got my license, and I can never forget. Back in the 70s, I was snowmobiling a lot. I could still see back then, but Dr. Pearson found out I was snowmobiling. He just about came unglued from himself. You're driving a snowmobile, because there's always the fear of the detached retina and all the other stuff that can happen. And
right.
I always said, I looked at him, I says, I can't go on life looking at ifs.
Right.
Just do it. You can't look at ifs. You just got to go do it.
Yeah.
And then, if I fall and hit my head, am I going to get a detached retina? And
right.
then the eyes was really bad anyways. I said, okay, you treat them somewhat decent. You try to be a little careful what you do to your eyes, but you don't, you can't stop living.
Yeah.
So
I think that's wonderful advice. You think about how many people they roll through life with just that constant, the what if, the fear, and that's what causes them to kind of put those limitations on themselves. But to move without that is pretty liberating.
Yeah, you just go. You have to be cautious. I mean,
right.
There's always caution that gets involved in it, and you be careful. And I played softball till I was. The night I took myself out of the game, I couldn't see the ball coming off the bat anymore out in the right field because it was a little dark and dusky that night. And that was like 77.
Okay.
And that was one of those nights that got to me a little bit because I knew I loved to play ball. I was, and I was playing with all my friends. the senior softball leagues and stuff like that, and I couldn't play anymore.
Right.
Okay, now you go on to the next thing in life.
Yeah.
Bowling's always been something, I've been doing it since I was like 7 years old, and the 10-pin doesn't move. It's in the same place it was 60 years ago.
Right.
So I don't worry about it. I am I as good as I could be if I had eyesight? No. But if I work a little harder at it, I can almost be as good.
Let's just hold on a second here, because I know a little bit about your bowling, Keith. So, the pinnacle in bowling is bowling a perfect game, 300, right? So it's 13 strikes in a row, correct?
Yeah, 12.
Or 12 strikes in a row.
12 strikes in a row.
12 strikes in a row. So, and how many perfect games?
I've had 5. But there's a couple reasons for that. One, I bowl a lot.
Yeah.
I did it one time. I don't bowl near as much as I used to. But when you bowl in 3 leagues a week, and you put the time I did, because I was coaching at the time.
Okay.
Because my kids were in the senior, they were both bowling, and they were, senior varsity bowlers. So I was doing a lot of coaching. I learned a lot from coaching.
Uh-huh.
I had a coach who was an ex-touring pro.
Okay.
Who understood the game. And in understanding the game, they can open up the room for error.
Right.
If you understand the game and you understand the technique, it's no longer trying to hit a board. You've got room for error. And he could build that room for error, so when my errant shots wouldn't cost me as much as somebody else's errant shots. But it's just working at the game. It was nothing spectacular. Anybody could be as good as I was if they would work at the game and just go practice.
So how do you compensate, with your eyesight for something like bowling?
You kind of, it's all in your imagination.
Okay.
You kind of look at an area and say, okay, that's where I'm going to throw the ball. And then you really almost got to put a mark out there to throw it. Because there's nothing out there. You can't see anything. I can't see the arrows. I can't see the pins are a blur. So I shoot at something imaginary.
Huh.
And that's where you get your arm swing and get it going in that right direction. And you throw it out over that imaginary mark.
Wow.
And the other part of it is just understanding the game. The ball's going to go to this 12th board and turn left and go into the pocket. It's also understanding that part of the game, but that's the technique of it.
So does somebody explain? Now I'm not an expert bowler by any means, but I understand enough that the lanes are oiled and things like that, and that affects the way the ball.
Yeah.
Right.
That's stuff I learned from my coach.
Okay. So does somebody explain how the lane is set up to you, and that helps you to visualize how to throw the ball?
The guys I bowl with are pretty good about the fact that if I throw it, I'll ask them how my ball reacted.
Okay.
I also got a feel for it because I can almost, I can't see what it's totally doing, but I've been bowling since I was 7, so I pretty much know what it's going to do.
Okay.
And I can figure out, okay, that ball's not reacting the way I want it. I got to move a little bit. I can make my adjustments. I don't make my adjustments fast enough, and that's because I can't adjust like somebody who sees, I knew what that ball did. I have to kind of guess, okay, what did that ball really do? But it's just...
Can you tell that by sound, or what gives you a sense of what the ball did?
Well, I can tell when it hits the pocket by the sound.
Okay.
If I did it right. And also you can just see how fast the pin's move and whether it's a light hit or not.
Okay.
I can't always tell which pin I left up.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys I bowl with will say, either that or the new scoring machines are kind of nice because they tell you which pin's left up there.
Okay.
And I just know. Sometimes I think it helps me maybe because I don't have to worry about hitting a board. You're shooting in an area.
Right, and perhaps it might minimize some of the distraction even. I suppose in a sense.
Yeah, it does because I can't see anything to the right or left of me a little bit, so that doesn't bother me as much. So
yeah,
losing the eyesight, your focus becomes better anyways.
Uh-huh.
You had asked me the other day about my senses coming back. The 2 senses that came back, I couldn't figure out what they really were, and hearing's one of them.
Yeah.
But the other one is my focus. Is when my focus is good, I'm really good.
Okay.
Some days it's hard to focus. Other days it's better. But some days I can really focus. And the 300 games were those games where you're locked in.
Yeah.
You're just and some of it's luck, blessed. Okay. The off shot carried. Okay?
Right.
It's the amount of games you bowl. If you only bowl 3 games a week in one league, you're probably not going to bowl 300 very often because you just don't have the opportunity to start stringing strikes and get a good feel for it because it's all feel.
So talk to us about traditionally when we think of focus, we think of visually focusing, but as you're talking about, it's more the mental focus.
Yeah, it's all mental focus. You really have to visualize something there that's not there.
Okay.
Okay, I can throw it there because I have a tendency to my eyes move a little bit, and if they move, they don't focus real fast.
Okay.
So it's really, really bad. It's bad enough you can't see what you're shooting at anyways, but if you move your eye, now you got to refocus. You can't refocus real fast. So you've almost got to put that out of your mind.
Okay.
And just really focus on something that's not there.
Is there something that you do or have done, in those games where you bowled the perfect game that, where it kind of helps you click into that focus better?
If I find myself in that level and I start doing that, I kind of just lose myself in it.
Okay.
Just don't get distracted by talking about stuff that could distract you or something like that. Just stay kind of in the moment.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about that, but I know I go back and look at the games when I did that. I didn't get distracted during the game. I didn't get in the argument with the guy next door because he stepped in my way or something like that. You just kind of, let everything go and just focus on what you're doing.
Yeah. A lot of athletes, they talk about that as kind of being in the zone, and it's the ability to eliminate all those other distractions and just be in that moment, so to speak.
And I think some of it's how good you are. I got a friend of mine who's almost a scratch golfer. And it's all hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
And he's been that way since he was in college. And for him, he only plays golf, once or twice a week, but he's still fantastic at it. But he's got great hand-eye coordination. And I think his focus is fairly good too. But I think, my hand-eye coordination isn't too bad, but the problem is there's no eyesight to focus on.
Yeah.
So you have to create that.
So as a golfer, I think about golf as being one of those, it's a very hand-eye coordination, dominant sport. So did you begin to learn to golf before you had the eyesight issues?
I've been playing golf for years, but I'm not good at that. I love being outside.
Yeah.
And golf's all about being outside. Just, do I try to be, I don't compete against anybody when I golf but myself.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't play in leagues or anything like that because it's just, you can't do it because I have to have somebody watch where the ball's going, and I can't afford caddies, so I have to rely on my kids and stuff like that, so you get your kids helping you. But I think that's more, there's focus involved just hitting the ball, because on the ball on the tee I can't see real well.
Right.
So I compete against myself. I'm never going to be a good golfer, but I can have some fun with it. I enjoy it.
And is that very much the same thing where you sort of visualize what it is, the way your body's moving and visualize where the ball is so that you're able to do it?
Yeah. The issue with golf is I can't see where the ball comes off the ball, where it's going. I can't see it hook or slice.
Right.
So you really got to, you almost go by where it landed and say, okay, that's where it landed. My son will say, there it is, out there. I said, okay. And they'll tell me. Most of the people like, well, okay, that hook, that slice, that,
Okay.
And you can tell where it lands. When you get out to where it lands, you can figure out what your shot was.
Right. So. And so do you think that you have a better sense of sort of what your body is doing because of the way you're visualizing things?
I don't think so. I think it's just the fact if you practice, you're going to get good at anything.
Yeah.
I would be a hell of a lot better golfer if I go out and practice once in a while.
Right.
And I just don't have the time. Or I lose the time because I haven't got somebody who can do it with me. I don't have a caddy.
Right.
But if I could practice and play once or twice a week, I'd probably get better at that too.
Okay.
And that's why I'm just a kind of a bad golfer, but I enjoy it.
And so tell us about, you before we got started, you were talking about, sailing across the Great Lakes and things like that. And so how is it that when your eyesight isn't there, how do you handle the sailing and the motorboating and things like that?
Well, even at 2300 or 2250, I could see out, and binoculars bring things in.
Okay.
So you can see it, and it's all about charting your course and sailing it. And I was never afraid of the Great Lakes. I've been stuck out in some pretty good-sized storms that would get my attention.
Yeah.
We raced the sailboat for quite a few years and a lot of things, and it's a lot of fun. But I don't think eyesight really bothers anybody who sails.
Yeah.
There again, my supporting staff, who sailed with me. When it come to the cruiser, going across the lake, and my wife drove it most of the time because she could drive a straighter line than I could.
Right.
I could look up at the sky and watch the sky, and then steer off the sky, or the waves. I steer off waves a lot.
Okay.
If you get an angle on the wave, and that's how you're going to hit it, just keep hitting it.
Okay.
So, but I can't look out and see something 10 miles to mark off of.
Okay.
Like, my wife says, oh, there's the we could see the windmills on Wolf Island.
Right.
I said, well, head toward them.
Yeah.
If you head in that direction, we're going the right direction.
Well,
so.
and you joked earlier that she likes you to dock the boat.
Oh, she can't dock a boat. She won't have any part of it. She just looks at me and hands me. I always taught her what to happen if something happened to me. I said, just beach it.
Right.
Just run it up on the beach. Don't worry about it. I said, but she won't dock a boat. So.
Wow.
That's just anybody can dock a big boat if you get used to it.
Yeah.
Because I always said it was funny. We put the big boat in the water in the spring. It'd take me 4 hours to figure out how to drive it again.
Yeah.
Because you lose that ability all winter long on what the boat's going to do.
Right.
And feeling the wind. I was really good at that in the sailboat. As you said, what senses come up? I could feel wind.
Okay.
To the point of really being able to sail the boat really good because you could feel it in your face which direction it was coming from.
Okay.
Everybody else looks at the twills on the water, and I kind of just feel it where the wind's coming from.
So Keith, and I shared with you before, you and I know a lot of people in common, and I was, talking to somebody who we both know really well, and he made a comment the other day when we were talking about you. He said, he goes, I've never looked at Keith as being handicapped, and he said, and I think the reason is because Keith doesn't look at Keith as being handicapped. And I'm curious, how did you avoid that label, or how did you so many people, they would their life would get smaller and smaller and smaller as their vision kind of got less and less and less, but yours didn't.
I feel blessed that I've got what sight I've got for starters, so you kind of open up on that a little bit. I don't see it as a handicap. I just feel there's things I can't do.
Right.
Okay, I can't do this. Okay, I'll go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
I can't drive anymore. I think that was probably the biggest hit I ever took in my life. Is when I lost my license.
Because you used to drag race.
Yeah, I used to love to drive. That was my thing. I could go out and just drive all night just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
I just loved to drive. I grew up in that era.
Yeah.
The mid '60s.
Yeah. Muscle cars and
all the other stuff. And I love to drive. And I think that was the biggest hit I took in '82.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the biggest struggle, because now you're relying on somebody else to take you places.
Right.
And there again, I had a great supporting staff. So they didn't see it, and he bothered to take me to work. Okay, it doesn't bother them. Now all of a sudden it's not a handicap from my side of it.
Did you go through, was there a time of depression that sort of followed that, or was it just, well, I can't do it anymore?
I can't do it anymore. Got to go do something else. It was like when I couldn't drive anymore, go buy the sailboat, go start racing a sailboat, go look for something else to do.
Right.
Because there are going to be limitations. Everybody's got limitations, what they can do and what they can't do. So you can look for something else, but do something. Don't.
So where did that attitude come from? I mean, that's a unique perspective. I mean, for many people, when something happens, they lose something, they're gonna go through that the stages of mourning and they get depressed about it and all of that. And for you, it was just like, okay, I can't do that, so I'll go do something else. Was that something your parents?
I don't know. My parents were strong. They didn't. They were always hard workers.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's just a work ethic. Just work at it. And you can be good at anything you want if you just work at it. It also depends how much time you got and how much you want to put into it. How good do you want to get at it?
Right.
I could be a better bowler again if I wanted to be. If I wanted to go up and bowl 3 nights a week again and really get into it, I could be better than I am right now. But I don't know if I want to put that much time, because now I got grandkids and all the other stuff, and I still like my boating and my fishing and stuff like that. So I don't know. I can't put a key onto that. I really don't know why I'm different that way. That okay, can't do it, go do something else.
Yeah. But it strikes me. I mean, there just has to be almost just that underlying belief. That whatever I focus on, I'm going to get better at. So
yeah. I mean, the more you do something, you're going to get better at it.
Yeah.
And you make. I work every day. I work on a computer all day long.
Yeah.
But there's things I do that, I have to get within a half inch of the screen. I have magnifying glasses. You use the tools you can get your hands on to get better at what you do.
Right.
But you can't, the tools are there. You have to work on a computer. That's part of life.
Yeah.
I think one of my biggest assets that I've ever had is with technology at my age, I'll be 70 very shortly. I never let a computer get in my way. I mean, they were a tool to use, and they're a great tool.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in our business, where we're making better temperatures and things like that in a commercial heat treat. You have to keep up with that. You have to stay with those tools and learn how to use them. I don't have to learn how they work. I just got to learn how to use them.
Right.
My son knows how they work. He's the IT person.
Yeah. So you so you're kind of going back a little bit on. So initially, your eyesight, you started to, when you're 11, 12 years old, it hit you. Then it kind of came back, and then was it in your late teens that it started to deteriorate again, or?
I didn't really notice it deteriorating until probably the mid-70s.
Okay. So how old were you at that point when it started to become more apparent that it was starting to deteriorate?
26, 27, because I had my first cataract surgery in 79, so I was 29.
Okay.
So it was right there that it started to deteriorate again, to the point that, all of a sudden in 79, there's going to be a point where, and that was because of the cataract.
Right.
And, so you just go get the cataract taken care of.
Yep.
Okay. Next thing is, I'll never forget the morning I came out of the hospital after the cataract surgery. I'll never forget the fact that with the cataracts, everything starts getting white on you.
Okay.
And when you have the lens removed and it's gone, and all of a sudden, green's green. The trees are, and I happened to do it in the spring, so I came out and everything was gorgeous again.
Wow.
That was probably the coolest thing I can ever remember, is coming out and seeing all the colors again.
Yeah.
Because cataract surgery really takes it. I've never lost the colors again.
Huh.
Up to this point, I still can see colors real well because my vision is, I got clear into my retina now, but now it's just the fact that it's fuzzy and it doesn't. I don't get the. It's like working through Saran wrap.
Right. Right.
So it'll never be that clear again. As I said, it's starting to deteriorate now, where I know I'm going to have to go get something taken care of again.
Okay.
But every time we do that, it never brings it back to the original spot. It always loses a little bit in the process.
Okay. So it's it's kind of, you go through the pendulum, and then you go, and then there's surgery or something, and it can kind of help it come back a little bit, and
start all over again. So, doctors keep looking at me and say, it's surprising I can still see. So that's what's blessing. I've stayed ahead of them. I can still see, and as long as I can still see, I'm going to keep doing things.
Yeah. And then the other thing that is incredibly impressive. So you work in an environment where you're heat treating steel. There's furnaces. I mean, it's not a it's not necessarily a safe environment. Or there's definitely hazards that are there. So how do you do that?
I got to avoid the hazards.
Rightfully so.
It's just I've been in the shop. I've worked in the same place for 53 years.
Okay.
I know where the bricks are.
Right.
I can still get around the shop fairly well, although I take my time now. I don't run through the shop anymore. I kind of, and there again, the guys at the shop have been, they know I have an issue, so they're all pretty good about it.
Right.
So, and I can do my job.
Yeah.
And that's the key, is you have to go do your job every day. So you use tools to do your job at that point in time. So I find today one of the hardest things for me to do, believe it or not, is mow lawn.
Really?
I can't see where I've been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to let the lawn get just a little bit longer.
Okay.
So now I can see where I've been.
Right.
Most people just go out and mow. I can't do that. I have to wait for it to get a little longer so I can see.
So you can see the contrast a little bit more.
So you can see the contrast where I've been. So, which drives my wife a little nuts because the lawn gets a lot, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So
hey. And
there again, the eye doctors tell me I shouldn't be mowing the lawn because of the dust.
Right.
For Christ's sake, you can't do that. You just got to go do it.
Yeah, you can't live your life in a bubble.
No, I won't do that. So,
yeah. So well, so Keith, I'm curious if you've been through a phenomenal journey of life. You're decidedly an individual who. You even though others have tried to put limits on you, you haven't put limits on yourself. Knowing what you know from the journey, if you had to go back and give the 12-year-old Keith advice from what you've learned, what advice would you give your young self?
I think the idea is. I always have had the dream that I'll be able to see again. Don't ever lose the dream.
Yeah.
It might happen. So, so you have this dream, okay, someday I might be able to see and drive again. Okay, in reality, is it going to happen? Probably not. But it's something to dream about.
Yeah.
Keep up. Always keep the fact that, it could be, it might get better, and think about the fact that it could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in the middle. So you have the dreams, but reality of life sets in and says, okay, just gonna do it. I can still go play golf. I'm very happy about that. I can still bowl. Okay, fine and dandy. when I can't do those things, I'll go find something else to do. I'm not gonna, I don't enjoy just sitting around. I can fish. I'll be able to fish for the rest of my life, and I love fish now.
Yeah.
So that's there again. I got a lot of friends that we go fishing together, so I don't have to worry about being the souls how to get there and stuff.
There you go.
I said, you're no better than your supporting staff.
Yeah.
My friends have been great. I got one friend that picks me up. We go fishing once a year. Huh. He picks me up, takes me. We go fishing, and we do it every year, and he's been great about it. So I think there again, it's the people around you that has made my life easier.
Yeah.
So, and it's friends of ours,
Yep.
joint friends have been trying, get into Uber, because
Yep.
I don't use Uber. He says, get into Uber. You got to learn how to use Uber. I
Right.
said, okay, that'll be the next step in learning how to use Uber so I can get around a little easier by my own. So,
There you go.
so and I think, but I don't see myself as anything special. I just do what I got to do, and I enjoy life.
Yeah.
I think, and I think one thing I don't think I really would change a whole lot in what I did because I don't think I could.
Yeah.
I don't think anything I would keep doing. I think the one thing I never blamed anybody.
Yeah.
Because there's no blame in this. This is now nobody's fault. This is just a fact of life. So you go on with it. I think I've seen friends blame things. They blame this, blame that. There's nothing you can do about that. It's just part of life. So you just continue on.
But that in and of itself is so unique. So many people are, oh, woe is me, and why did this happen to me, and why, and they kind of go down that kind of victim thought process. How did you avoid that?
There's nobody to blame.
Yeah.
It's if I can't blame myself.
Yeah.
I could because it's basically my body that's deteriorating, nobody else's. But if you look at and nobody else blamed it. I've never had it around me.
Yeah.
My support staff never blamed anybody for it. I never saw anybody yell and scream and say, okay, this was caused because of this. Why was it caused? They still, to this day, do not know what caused uveitis or what caused the strep germ to flare it up. They had rumors and they thought about things and it could be rheumatic fever and all this stuff, but nobody really knows.
Yeah.
It's just, can you blame the environment? Yeah, maybe. Who knows? It's just there's no sense to it. That's a waste of time.
Yeah, well, and and I think you're 100% correct on that. There's a lot of wasted energy that goes in blame and worry.
Yes,
and and it doesn't get you anywhere.
No, just just how you face it. Just keep going with it, and what you do, I love to do. I still love to compete. That's it's a little competition here and there in the bowling.
Yeah,
I like to go out and compete against my sons.
Yeah,
it's good competition. It's fun.
Yeah.
Especially when I can beat them once in a while.
It's probably a little blow to their ego, but
a little bit. I've had people comment about and it's the jokes.
Yeah.
And there are people I've beat people bowling that really got irritated by it. The blind guy just beat me. And I don't think they really realize it. You could have beat me easily if you'd put more time into the game than I put into it. I said it's nothing special that I beat you. It's just the fact that you didn't put enough time in the game.
Right.
And I've heard all the blind jokes in the world, and they never bothered me.
Yeah.
It's just okay. It's I've never had anybody really get mean about it. I have a couple people I know, but it's just okay. You want to be that way, be that way. That's fine.
Right.
You can't. It's not affecting them. When somebody jokes about something like that, there's nothing mean in some people's jokes. People right now, they take all this. Everybody says, "Oh, it's mean." Well, some of it isn't mean. Some of it's just plain funny.
Yeah.
And I laugh at blind jokes. There are some good jokes out there. I laugh when I trip over something because I didn't see it. And somebody will say, well, didn't see it. It's my fault for not looking.
Yeah.
There again, if I trip over something, it's not nobody's fault that I tripped over it. It's my own fault for not taking the time or just making sure I did it right or doing that. So I think today in that age, you've got to go with that. So and some of the jokes are funny. And I think people just take some things way too seriously.
Yeah. No. You are an inspiration in so many regards and what it is you do and I think there's wonderful lessons for everybody in that, avoid the labels, no matter how hard other people may try to put them on you, and don't go down that victim pathway of pointing fingers at oh, woe is me and all of that, because it doesn't serve anything, and hold on to that dream of whatever it may be. And
I think I look at a lot of the people out there. There's so many people out there who have fought things a lot worse than I've ever fought them.
Yeah.
and have, you look at some of the disabilities people got, and there are so many people that have achieved so much. I think you need to look at people for the good things they do and not the bad things. So you don't look at the disability, look at what they're good at. For every person that's got something they can't do, there's something they can do really well.
Yeah.
And you need to look at that, and especially even in your job. Don't find a job find a job you're good at.
Yeah.
And there's always something. Everybody that comes into our place who's ever worked for us, I've never looked at what they did wrong. I have always looked at what they can do really well.
Yeah.
And you take that and build on it. And I've been lucky. My bosses, who are my bosses now, have never looked at me, as you said, have never looked at me with a disability. They've always looked at what I could do for them good.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot to me. So basically, I still know better than what the supporting staff is around me.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. You don't look at somebody for what they can't do. Look at them for what they can do.
So in managing, people in the shop and things like that, how do you see them respond when you treat them that way?
I've had great response from the team members I've had with me.
Yeah.
Because we've all got faults.
Yeah.
You don't look at a mistake as the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they made a mistake. Let's try not to make the mistake again. Let's learn from what we did, and let's go on from there.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're really good at this, so we're going to specialize you this. Being in the heat treat industry, we're dealing with tool and die people and everything else. So we're, most of the people are not rocket science. It's not rocket science, but they all have good points and they're smart. And you just bring that out and, and just kind of look aside from the things they're not good at. You can work around it.
Mm-hmm.
If I can work around not doing some of the things I don't want to do, they can you work around some of the good things. But everybody can do something well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Oh, very, very well. Keith, I got to say, it's thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your story with us and helping all of us to really look at ourselves a little bit differently and what we're giving ourselves permission to do. You truly are an inspiration. So thank you very much.
I appreciate you having me. I just hope people look at it and I have done some good someplace along the line.
There you go. I think you decidedly have.
So, okay. Thank you for having me.
Hey guys, one more thing before you take off. This is Motivational Intelligence Insider. It's just a very short, exclusive email every Monday that comes from Dave, John, and the guests on this show. This is the only place they share their very, very best stuff, and it's delivered right to your inbox every single Monday. This could include exclusive tips for upping your game, articles they're reading, videos they're watching, stories from the road, and on and on. It's the best way to kick off your week, and this content comes directly from Dave, John, and the guests, and is only available to subscribers of Motivational Intelligence Insider. So if you want these guys and gals to email you their best stuff, go to 2logical.com/insider. That's the number 2logical.com/insider and drop in your email. And if you do, I hope you enjoy.
The Motivational Intelligence Podcast is produced by the team at 2Logical. 2Logical is an international corporate training firm and the world's leading expert in motivational intelligence, which is the ability to understand, manage, and change the motives people have. 2Logical offers over 30 different keynotes, workshops, and full training courses to small, medium, and large Fortune 500 companies in 53 countries, a lot of which you're probably familiar with: Pfizer, Bank of America, GE, Constellation Brands, P&G, and more. All solutions are completely customized, and the feedback from these sessions will blow your mind. If you have any training or speaking needs or just want to say hey, head over to 2logical.com.